In our yesterday session, we understood, I mean, we are trying to understand how Spring MVC module or Spring Boot MVC module handling the incoming request and how it is identifying the respective controller methods or request mapping methods. So internally, internally how it is mapping the incoming request coming from the client to controller or view layer to controller layer, and how internally mapping is managing. Those are all details we are trying to understand. And as well as we try to understand yesterday the URL formation also with respect to Spring Boot applications. So how we are making that and all, we try to understand yesterday's class. So it's all about we can write any number of request mapping methods. So the request mapping means the incoming request. For example, if you see here, the request always comes from the front view layer to controller layer. So it's a request. So we will get n number of requests in different scenarios. Then when I'm clicking on user registration in the sorry in the in the controller layer level, it has to invoke the functionality of user registration. User registration. Whenever I am clicking on login buttons, I mean login from the login page, it has to invoke the user login functionality from the controller layer. So this is the mapping we are doing. So the request, whatever the incoming request coming from the view layer, whatever the request coming from the view layer to controller layer level. So whatever the request is coming, so that mapping we are making, that mapping only we are making here it is. That's why the annotation also we are seeing as a request mapping, where we are doing this all controller class level. So in a controller class level, we are writing request mapping like if any request coming from view layer or front end to back end, okay, to our Spring Boot backend application, then what we are doing here it is by using this annotation, we are configuring like if any request came with HTTP method get as well as the request path is welcome, okay, then this method has to be executed. So if any request came with get method and with request path /hello, then this method has to be executed. Like that, we are making the coding, we are implementing the annotation and configuration values here it is. So that's why we are calling it as a request mapping method. For example, if I don't have a request mapping annotation on key, so then I cannot call it as a request mapping method. I cannot call it as a controller method or endpoint method. I mean, I cannot call it as a request mapping method. Why? Request mapping method is this is where you are telling it this method has to be executed at what time. But here you just written a simple Java method. You are not configured any request mapping information. So you can write your own, without request mapping annotation, we can write the methods inside the controller because it's a simple Java class. First of all, it is a Java class. But when you will say like this method has to be executed when a user submitted on the register button, clicked on the register button, then all this information, collected and came as a request to the controller level, and this method has to be executed. That is what your idea. So same thing you have to configure via a request mapping annotation. So that's what the annotation request mapping is talking about here it is. So let's understand what is the request mapping annotation. So it's a very simple. If you are segregated into two words, request plus mapping. So request plus mapping, right? So that means from where generally requests will come from the front end, nothing but view layer. So we can call it as a view layer in our monolithic application. So that means if any request coming from the front end, that mapping information we are making at what level? Controller level. In controller class, which method has to be executed? Like that, we are writing our own. Inside our controller classes, we are providing the mapping information. So here two things are mandatory, or here two things are major things. One is the incoming request. Whenever I said a request coming from front end to back end, every time HTTP method, one HTTP method is mandatory. So in a HTTP protocol point of view, whenever we discuss, about HTTP protocol, whenever we are sending a request, so it will always have a HTTP method. 100% every time a HTTP request will be triggered with always some HTTP method, whether it is a get, push, put, post, delete, whatever it is, but one method will be presented always. So every time a HTTP request is triggered with one HTTP method. So that is what we are mentioning here it is. Is there any request coming from front end to back end with HTTP method get, as well as the request came with the path something like slash welcome, slash register, slash login. So we will write different buttons, different functionalities. For example, this button point of view, I'll write like slash register. And this button point of view, why user registration. And this button point of view, I will write slash login. And some other upload. So some other buttons point of view, I'll write like slash upload. Slash upload. So some other buttons point of view, add photo or something like that. Add comment, add comments. So I can do anything. I can write any number of URL patterns. I mean, this is all depends on my entire project point of view. So different scenarios, different URL patterns we will define, right? So same thing with respect to this URL pattern, we have to write respect to Java logic, which has to be executed. And that logic we will write, but that method has to be configured with this request mapping information. Now, any request came with slash welcome, localhost 8888 slash welcome, then this method will execute. So how it is knows that, for example, if I deleted this, again this method will become a useless method, or maybe this method is not a request mapping method. So that means this method is not going to be executed at any point of time. So it automatically identifying is not possible in this case. So that's why you are giving this annotation, a request mapping, and you're saying like any request came with get and slash welcome, then this method has to be executed. And then if any request with get and slash hello, this method has to be executed. Like that, how many controllers we can write? We can write any number of controllers. And inside a controller, how many request mapping methods we can write? You can write any number of request mapping methods. It's up to your choice. Okay. So it's up to our choice. I can write 10, 15, 20, 30 request mapping methods also I can write. Okay. So slash login, slash reset password, slash delete user, slash deactivate. So you will see all these options in our Instagram, all these way, right? Generally. So you will go whenever you decided like you want to deactivate your profile. So you will see one option like deactivate my profile. The moment you click on the deactivate your profile, so then what will in the database they will deactivate your profile. That means your profile is not going to be visible to any of other your followers going further. So that is how they will execute some logic. The moment you click on that button, some logic will be executed in the backend. So some DB changes will happen. Some logic is going to execute, some DB changes will happen. So that means in that case, they will implement functionality like something like deactivate, something like that. So you're deactivating your profile, you're changing your password, you're logging, you're doing the login, you're doing the register, you are clicking on forget password. So sometimes we will forget our password. So that's why you will go to one option and you will click on a button called as forget password. The moment you given forget password, what will happen? They will display some form, enter your new password, confirm password, something like that. So once you clicked on that button, OK or submit button, then what will happen? That request for confirm password, new password, then slash, in such case, what you will use slash, something like forgot password. Then the request directly comes to this method. So whatever the request mapping you will do here, then that logic comes to this method and it will execute. So now in this case, I am giving forgot password. something like that. So like that, we will write the logics. So we different scenarios, different request mapping methods we use to implement. So now I given forget password. So if any request came with slash forget slash password, then this method will be executed. If any request came from front end or a button clicked on the, I mean, front end is implemented or a front end layer is implemented and a button is triggered with this URI pattern, then this method will be executed in the backend. So this is how we are going to write controller classes and request mapping methods. So request mapping methods always presented in the controller classes. You can't write somewhere else. You have to write always inside the controller classes. Why? Yesterday I told you. So whenever you are deploying your application, what it will do? It will start scanning one by one controller classes. Whatever the classes you are annotated with @controller, those classes will be scanned by MVC module internally when you started your Spring Boot application. So that means it will scan all controller classes and collects information of all request mapping methods. So what it is doing, it is collecting all the request mapping information method like, okay, in the home controller, these are the methods available. In the user controller, these are the methods available. Like that, it will internally, it will make a memo, okay, internally, it will make all this information. Yeah. So internally, it will make, so we added one more, right? So whenever you restarted your application this time, it will maintain this information under this controller. So like that, it will maintain some mapping information. And whenever you send request like this, immediately what it will do, the request come to the Spring MVC module, it will go and verifies this information. So slash login, is there anything for the slash login? Nothing is there. So then you will get not found. Slash welcome, yes. Slash welcome point of view, yes, it is matching get method as well as welcome. Then this method will be executed from this controller. So this is all comes under the handler mapping. I'll explain again one more time with respect to REST API point of view also. But high level, I'm just explaining you right now also. So like that, it will maintain, and finally, that respective method is going to be executed. So what is the small thing you have to understand here? It is the communication between view layer and controller layer. The communication between view layer and controller layer should be happens. I mean, it is going to always happens with respect to this URI patterns. What you are implemented at controller layer level based on a requirement point of view, and that is what you have to configure at view layer, or whatever you configure at view layer level, that is what you have to use at controller layer level, and you have to write functionality accordingly. If it is user registration, create user account. If it is user login, compare username, passwords matching with the database or not. If it is matching, then send a hello, welcome message, something like that. So depends on the scenario. You have to somehow manage this front end and view layer and controller layer communication. So as a developer, we should know how we are integrating view layer and as well as controller layer with respect to that URI patterns. So that is what we discussed yesterday, and I just explained you what is the request mapping also. Now, this, if you observe here, request mapping, there are a lot of attributes available. This is an annotation. These are all annotation properties or attributes. Like what you have, consumes, address, method, name, params, path, produces value, right? So I will explain by end of our Spring Boot MVC module or REST APIs, whatever it is, you will come to know each and every attribute. So this consumes related to REST APIs and produces also related to REST API. So at the time I'll explain you. And when it comes to path, yeah, so path we already used it. And method. What method, for which HTTP method, that method has to be executed. So when whoever sent request for example, I given post. This is an enum. So I given post. Who sent whatever the request, incoming request coming for slash forget and slash password with HTTP method post, then this method will execute. Now, can you tell me if I given, I mean, any incoming request came with get method. instead of sending post, they send get from the view layer. Then what will happen? In this case, this method is going to be executed means no, because mapping information is failed. So this method is executed only for the post and with the combination of this URL pattern. URL pattern is good, but this method is wrong. So that's why then MVC module will give information error message like not found. That means with this combination, there is no request mapping we configured in our controller layer. So that means then you will tell, I mean, front end team, sorry, now in the front end level, they modified it as get to post. Now again, they triggered the request. Yes, now whenever the request coming from front end to back end, this time URL is matching as well as HTTP method is also matching, right? That is what I mentioned as path, URI path. Path is that. So here you will give always URIs. So then this method is going to be executed. So like that, we are configuring request mapping methods. Okay. And yeah, so one small point I'll give you here. So whatever the URI paths I'm talking, right? For example, if you see here, yeah, these are all URLs we created yesterday based on our just /login, /welcome, /hello, right? So these are all URI paths. Sometimes people will call it as endpoints, guys. Endpoints. Okay, endpoints. So endpoint means, I mean, it's a just when we are working with the projects, we use this terminology. So what is your end? Okay, what is the endpoint? Endpoint is nothing but in a login point of view. What is the endpoint? Endpoint is nothing but this method. So that means from the view layer, whenever you got a request to controller layer, where your request is landing on which controller method. So that method level we configured some path, right? That we are calling it as endpoints. So why I am giving that terminology here it is. In the flow, I will also use this word. When I'm explaining something, I will also use like this endpoint is triggered now. So you should not confuse. So endpoint is nothing but this method. With respect to /login endpoint, login endpoint, this is the method. Reset password endpoint, this is the method. Forget password endpoint. Okay. Similarly, welcome endpoint, hello endpoint. So that kind of terminology people will use in day-to-day terminology. And I will also use in the flow. That's why I'm telling you, whenever I said like endpoint, don't feel something else. It's all about this one only. The request mapping method, whatever it is, it's an endpoint. Endpoint number one, endpoint number two, something like that. You just remember on high level. So endpoint, endpoint, endpoint. So why endpoint? Wherever you have URI paths configured and a method logic is configured, then we can call it as the endpoint methods also. Endpoints or endpoint methods. So some terminology, that's all. Okay. Okay. So now let's do one thing. Whatever we discussed till yesterday, it's all about we discussed step one, step two, step three, what will happen, a high level point of view we discussed. Now what I will do is we will create one more project now, one more Spring Boot application, web application, and there we will try to implement all this functionality, basic functionality like user registration as well as user login functionalities. I'll show you. Even reset password also, if you want, I can show you one more example. So these two examples we will try to cover step-by-step point of view, and we will implement view layer, controller layer, service layer, repository layer. We will create DB tables and everything we will do. Okay, so one end-to-end example. So let's see how we are doing that. So here again, I will give you steps. Okay. So first, let's take the requirement and then let's start making the coding also step by step. So what is my requirement is first thing is user registration. So user registration. Second thing is user login. Basic operation, basic user management operations, what we will see in our day-to-day life. User login. So login wise, you have two scenarios. One is what? Success and fail. So if user login, that means credentials are matching, then success. Then send like welcome to home. Like that, you will give all the information back to the you will just display some other page. If it is wrong, fail. Yeah. So fail means credentials are wrong. Then what you will do generally, you will send a message like invalid credentials. Please try again. This is the message you will send it, right? And user registration point of view also, what are the use cases you will have? For example, I want to make based on the email ID, based on the email ID, I want to make sure email user registration I have to do. So that means in this case, email ID I will make as a unique ID, primary key point of view. Nothing but, so what is the scenario of success? What is the scenario of fail? Okay, here in this case, user registration point of view, I'll take, okay, first name, I'll take like name and then email ID and then password and something like any other information, gender or whatever, etc. So base now when you will say like user registration is success when email not existed. When email not existed, then you will allow to create an account. That means for the first time you creating the account. Resume Dilip 123, I mean Dilip at gmail.com is already there. I already created account. Maybe I am trying to create one more time. Then you should not allow, right? So that means when user creation will fail in this case, registration, when email ID already existed. When email ID existed. So that means what is the message you will send? You will not create account. Don't create an account. Don't allow to create an account. Instead of that, what you will say? Your account is already existed. So you have to send like account with this email ID already existed. With already existed. So these are all common use cases I think we used to see in every day-to-day, like Instagram, Facebooks, Gmails, or our college applications, or any other application, net banking applications, whatever it is. Whenever we are doing basic registrations, we used to see every time this one. So these are all scenarios I would like to implement now. These are all scenarios I would like to implement with respect to what I said, view layer. So I'll take view layer. View means from the registration perspective, as well as controller layer and then model layer. But as part of model, in Spring MVC, again, they segregated as service layer, repository layer, and then finally DB. So this is the communication I would like to achieve now. So controller to service, I mean nothing but model, repository to DB. And similarly, DB to repository communicates with service layer communicates with controller communicates with the front end, nothing but view layer. So this is the basic MVC architecture we are following now. Okay, so everywhere, every real-time application, 99% nowadays also, see that's what I said. It's all about monolithic microservices. When it comes to monolithic, front end is also available in your same application. If it is microservices, only thing is front end you don't have, but remaining rest is common again. As a backend application point of view, this is always common. Now, what will happen in this case? Your front end is available in somewhere else. Your front end is in this case, what will happen? Your backend looks like this, but front end is implemented as a separate project, except somewhere else. You will make communication. That's all. Finally, you will make communication. Then also controller is the first point. Then also controller is the first point in your backend application point. So whether view layer available in your local or outside of the application, whatever it is, but this area especially is always common. whether it is a microservices or whatever it is. So that's why just concentrate here, step by step pointer. Okay, let's first take user registration pointer. Now, let's create the application first, and then we'll start step by step process. Okay. So I'll take new project, new Spring Starter project. Something user management or whatever it is. Okay. From here, what I will take web module, JPA module, because I want to do database also this time. And I'm using Oracle, and I want to use Lombok also for the setter getter auto generation pointer. So mainly you need these three mandatory. Lombok is optional. If you don't have Lombok, you have to write setter getters manually, otherwise it will create that, you know that. So this is okay. Until this step, there is nothing to discuss much. And second, so what I will do is high level, I'll write these steps. Created application. Second step is add DB properties, because we added GP database also. And third step is add JSP dependency, because by default that integrated embedded Tomcat server will not come up with JSP support. That's why we have to add JSP dependency. And then fourth step is configure view resolver. So that means whenever we are returning view names, once the endpoint method is executed, what we are doing? So which JSP has to be displayed once that request execution is completed? As a response, which JSP has to be executed or which JSP has to be loaded? That name we are giving here, right? So that's why view name we will give. We will give only JSP name, but we should not give .jsp, something like that. So that's why we have to give view resolvers, so that we know that how to give it. And step number 4 and step number 5, the basic project setup I'm talking. Yeah, this is the basic things you have to do whenever you created any application pointer. After that, step number 5 onwards, it's all about requirement implementation. Step number 5 point of view, it's all about you need to take the requirement into consideration, and we will start the coding or implementation. Okay, so let's add the DB properties quickly. So, okay, so first, okay, step by step I'll go anyway. Main resources, application.properties. Okay, fine. And then DB properties, okay, yeah. So if you want to change the default port to something else, you can change it. Or if you want to give context path also, you can give it. So anyway, I'll just make it. Otherwise, you'll forget these property names. Server.port, and I will use my, I mean, 8899. And then I said one more is servlet context path. Server.servlet context path. Server means Tomcat server, integrated Tomcat server. So I'm giving slash. So you have to give slash here. And then context path, I'll give, basically, you could give any application name. For example, let's take Instagram only. So now this will become always common URI in every URL because you've given a context path level. Okay, cool. This is high level. And then I said add the dependency. Yeah. If you this dependency we have to add in the new project, make inside the dependencies. Okay, cool. So that means yes, you added JSP support also. Okay, so now with this pom.xml file is okay. And then I said view resolver. So you know what is the view resolver steps. You have to create the projects, folders first, and then you have to configure that information. Here it is. So src main new folder. So first thing is you have to create web app, and inside that web-inf. Nobody is using this approach nowadays, guys. But okay, we should know. But in the latest development, nobody is following this. You know that it's all REST APIs, microservices. Point of okay. So and then I'll create a folder. You can create, sorry, you can create any folder name. For example, I'll give like view folder, something like instead of view, I can give something like presentation UI. So UI. So then I have to give here UI. That's all. And inside that, I would like to keep .jsp something like this. Okay. So this is view resolver. Now with this, your project setup is good. I think I'll add one more property in the DB. I'm not going to create the tables manually from the SQL. Whatever the entity class I'll prepare based on my requirement from that entity class, I'd like to what create the tables automatically. Spring JPA Hibernate DDL auto equal to what I will do is I'll make update so that or for the first time I'll make create. So it will create and after that I'll deactivate this one. So this you know that we are all done all this in the JPA. So because I don't want to create the table manually, I don't want to waste my time. So whatever the entity classes I'll write based on that automatically tables will be created. Okay, so this is the very basic project setup. Okay, so this is the very basic project setup. So view resolver, you added in the pom.xml, you added your port numbers, and you added the DB details. Let's start our application first so that we can come to know that as of now, step project setup is good or not. Yeah. So I told you already, you have to see this message always. Then only your application is up and running or nothing successfully started. So now my application started with 8899 port number and context path is Instagram. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So now let's start implementation based on the requirement. Okay. Yeah, let me stop my application. Once I return some logic, then again I will start my application one more time. Okay, so properties file, I'm okay. Now what you have to do? Step number one. Go back here. So user registration. First we have to give priority to user registration. So that means how things will happen generally. For example, assume you don't have a Instagram account. You are planning to create Instagram account generally. So then generally what you will do, you will go to the Instagram.com. And the moment you send it, so to open an Instagram account, what we are doing, first we are sending a request to Instagram homepage. So if you are opening browser like this, and if you are sitting ideally in front of this, nothing will come up, right? So to open a Instagram account, what you did, you sent a URL request. You sent a request to Instagram.com, then this page came. Then here you are clicking on sign up button. So see here, accounts slash email sign up. So accounts slash email sign up. So what is the meaning of this one? They are saying like you are creating a new account and based on the email. So based on the mobile number or email point of view. Now you clicked on the login with Facebook. So I'm just showing you the things, how things are happening. See, Facebook, then it is redirected to Facebook, all these things. But okay, we are not going that much level. Now what you will do, you will enter the names here. Dilip, sorry. Okay, let me give some mobile number. Okay, so cool. And then password, something, whatever it is, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then full name, I'll give Dilip and I'll give like username, uh, Dilip underscore 123 underscore 456, something like that. So this is my username, unique username or whatever it is. Now what will happen? You will click on button called as sign up button. So this is the URL pattern you got to see this home page. Okay. So they are saying like automatically that user account is that user ID is not available and they suggested something. Whatever it is, I take it. Now my point here it is, once I am clicking on sign up button, what will happen? So see here. See, I'm not that much good in the front end, guys. I'm telling you one more time also. But I know awareness, I know basic things and everything. So just see here. If you observe here, I think this one, payload. See what happened? First name, phone number, whatever I given here, right? So whatever I submitted, what happened? The body went, form data. So what data it is sending? My first name, whatever I given Dilip, whatever my phone number I given, whatever username I given, and whatever client ID is nothing but they encrypted to password is encrypted. Okay. So it's all security things. We can do that. So they will decrypt again back end. That's a different story. What you have to understand, the data is going from front end to where? Back end. So which URL? This URL level. See, you can learn subject. This is way. This is the way. See here API. Can I say what is this API? REST API. I mean, in such cases, generally we will use. That's what my point here it is. I am trying to say like nowadays everything is all about REST API communication. And what is the request method? Post the send. The send what? Yes. Generally, I'll give you the details. At what time you have to take post, get, delete all these things. I think by the time you should know already something, but anyway, I'll give you later. See post method, path. If you observe here, this is the path I'm talking about. So this path is attached. See, this is what method is post. This is the path. This is the path. So this Instagram.com up to this is okay. This is always a like kind of context path. In our case, whatever I taken, localhost 8899 slash Instagram, something like that. Okay, that is it. But remaining is all about the path what you configured request mapping in the backend level. So now this path I can use and use. I mean, this is what I have to configure. I have to make a request mapping for this request mapping with this endpoint. Like, okay. So this is how you have to understand the knowledge. So please go through these developer tools and try to understand all these things. At least see, it's not about sometimes understanding 100%. It's all about having awareness. It's all about it's something like, you know, some concept, right? Something is better than nothing, right? So that's why what I'm trying to say is just try to go these developer tools. Even I don't know much. That's what I'm trying to say. If you have any front end developers, they can play with these all options. You can take their help also. So, but you can find out, see how clearly what information your encrypted password, your password is encrypted. So security purpose. Otherwise, you can easily grab others' passwords when they are doing the login from your computers. After that, you can get it from the cache also. So that's it. They will do password encryption, all these things. But anyway, the remaining data, raw data, they are sending username, password, which is a public information point of view. So then what you got? Response back. You got this is all response. Add your birthday. And that means they are saying like your account is going to be created with that user ID. Right? Then it is asking what is your date of birth, something like that. So please enter your SMS code, what we sent you. So that means they are something, SMS code, whatever it is. They are suggesting all these username suggestions. See, these are all username suggestions, something like that. So this is all preview point of view. They're given some suggestions or whatever it is, like that. In earlier case, it is got you got it all. So just go through these options, just explore it at least. These are all helpful for you with respect to what while understanding the REST APIs also, I'll give you what is this headers, request headers, response headers, and status codes. So if you see here, this 200 okay, 201 created, 400, 404 not found. There are some status codes available. So those are all details I'll explain you in the REST API again, uh, with respect to REST API only. But anyway, so anyway, you got a overview, right? So what is being happens in general with respect to any sign up operations and all. That is what. Now, same thing on high level point of view, we are doing in our local. Okay, so first that means what I have to do. Step number one, display the. So with respect to what I have to do, step number one, display user registration form. Display user registration form. So how to display user registration form again? See here, I will write. So for that, where you will write view layer, front end, right? So what I will do, I'll take something, a new file called as user register or something, register user underscore register JSP, whatever it is, user underscore register, like that. Okay. So, and this is the file name I given, user underscore register, whatever it is. Okay. So now what I will do, I'll write logic of that user registration form. What I will do, I'm not writing the HTML logic. I don't think this much length also. Okay, if you want, I can write. We can write also, but I won't copy paste. So you know that, right? All HTML rules, whatever it is, I don't know. HTML and then followed by. User registration or user sign up simply. Okay, so I'll delete it. So whatever I want, I will keep it. Sign up. So if you have good knowledge in front end, use all that knowledge also, no problem. But please, this is all you know that label, password, repeat password, and then I'll take name also. So full name, and then I'll like text placeholder, enter name, email, full name, I'll take. Okay, so fine. So this is what I just created a HTML form like user registration, first name, I mean full name, as well as email ID and password. So you can add other columns also based on your knowledge. So it's all about. So now this is what I created. Let me. So this is okay. Now I'm good with registration form implemented. Now how to display it? Okay, we implemented it, but we have to display, right? That means whenever I send some request to, like what happened in Instagram also, whenever you want to create an account, so what you're sending, you're sending a request like Instagram.com, right? So the moment you send the request like this, then you got this option, right? Similarly, to load this page also into browser, from my browser, what I have to do? So I have to send some request like localhost, welcome, slash home or slash sign up, something like that. So I decided like, let me give something like sign up. Okay. So sign up or whatever it is. So whenever I want to load this JSP from whenever I send a request, now my point is I'll send request like this, localhost :8899 / Instagram. Why? Because I added this time context path and slash I'll send like sign up. This is my endpoint. So the moment I send request by entering this URL and I'm sending get request only from the URL, whenever you are sending a request from here, from the URL location, always it is a get only. You can't do the post. So that means what happens in this case? Understand the flow. I'll send a request to this URL, get request and this URL. Okay, fine. So this is the URI path. This is the URI path. This is the method. This is the method. So with this combination, whenever I send a request to backend, then what backend has to do? Backend has to do is load user registration or user sign up form. User sign up. So to load user sign up form and as well as to load this user sign up form and to receive this request, what you have to do in the backend level as a controller class level, you have to write a controller class. And inside controller, what you have to write, guys? First of all, you have to write a request mapping. First of all, you have to write a request mapping for the endpoint called as /signup and as well as get method. So with this combination in a controller class, you have to write a request mapping so that whenever a request came from the front end, from the browser, with this automatically that method will be executed. And what that method has to do, ultimately, it has to load the user sign up form. It has to load the user sign up form. So that means what you have to do, we have to give the view name, whatever the JSP file name we return. So we will return back. Then automatically what will happen as a response, what controller will give back is, so this is all about request, right? And as a response, what you will get here it is, you will see the user sign up. You will see user sign up with that all first name, full name like that. You will see the user sign up. Now after that again user what he will do? Again user will fill the details. User will fill the details. So once user filled on the details, what user will do? User will click on button called as sign up button. So he will click on sign up button. Now as a developer, what we have to do? So whenever it is a create operation, insert operation, and that too you are sending passwords, you have to send always a request in the post method. So that means you have to, I'll write like this, user slash or account sign up, something like that. Account sign up. I'll give my URL action like this, account slash sign up. And then method also, I'll maintain post method. So this is all where I have to implement, guys, while filling the details. So here, so that means in the submit level, what here in the form level, I have to give two paths. One is action and second one is method. So now that means I'll give action. What is the action? What is the action? Should happen here. It is this one, account slash sign up. So I'll give like account slash sign up. So then method space method. What method I'm passing in this case is I'm a post method. So that means in this case, the user clicking on the submit button, nothing but sign up button, immediately what will happen, guys, from the HTML perspective, one more request is triggered to this endpoint. So one more request is triggered to this endpoint, nothing but localhost 8899 / Instagram / account slash sign up, and a method will go. This time the request, HTTP request, is going with post method. Post method. So like that, a URL will form and a HTTP post URL, post method will go to the backend from the browser. Now that means what will happen in this case? After filling the details, sign up, we have to enable this URL. We have to trigger this URI with post method. So now counter to this in the backend, what we have to do? Counter to this in the backend, what we have to do? We have to do like controller level again. Nothing but what you have to do? You have to write first of all a request mapping method. Why? To receive that request. So in this case, what is the new method you are implementing? One more in the controller level, you are writing one more request mapping method for the purpose of slash account sign up. Like that. Okay. So you are writing, and as well as this time it is post. This time it is post. So you will write a request mapping method like this, post. And what logic you have to implement in this case? What logic? So you will write a Java method. So what logic? What logic you have to implement in this case? Read data from read data from a request. What data you will read? What data he submitted? Name, email ID, password. These three information he submitted, right? From the filling of after filling the data, he clicked on the sign up. Now you will collect all that information, name, email, password, all these things. So once you collected, what you will do? You will send this data to DB only, but you can't do as per MVC architecture. What I said, you can't directly call. You can call it. You will not get any compile time error. But MVC architecture suggesting us when you should not communicate directly with the DB from the controller layer. You should not do that. Programmatically, if you are doing, you will not get any compile time error, guys. You will not get any runtime error also. But MVC architecture suggesting like don't do directly from the controller. Pass it to the service. So that means in this case, controller. Controller level, you will read the data. Now what you have to do? Pass that information back to the whom? Service layer. And from service layer, pass to repository. Pass to repository. Now repository will put the data into DB level. So send data to DB. So in the service layer, I said business logic you have to write in the service layer. You will read only data from the request. After that, you will simply hand over that information to service. Now, what business logic you have to do here? This logic. So business logic means what? Validations. For example, I said, right, already who knows that account is already existed. So you have to verify. First of all, before creating an account, you have to verify email is already existed or not. If it is already existed, then you should not create the account. You have to send a message like email ID is already existed. So this validation, you will check with the database. Hey database, could you please check with this email ID already account available or not? Then database given response like yes, with this information already have one record. Then your intention is what? He already submitted his details earlier. He is already having an account. So then you will send a message like this email ID is already used. Please try to use new email ID or something like that. So that logic implementation and all you have to do in the service layer. So, and finally, whatever you want to pass it to repository, JPA repository, that JPA will take care with the DB point of view. This is the basic things you have to do. So that means send data to DB generally. But before sending data to DB, what you have to do? Data to service layer. And then in the service layer class, you will write some use cases. Some that validations, email user is already existed or not, all these things. And then from service layer 2, you will utilize the repository, JPA repository. And then JPA repository will finally make a communication with the DB. And based on that, you will give response back to the like that. So now assume user is already available. So based on that, happy path point of view, user is not there. So then as a response, what you will give? what he will receive? User account created successfully. Please log in now. Like that, I have to send a message now. This is the response I have to send it to user now. So now user will see this message. User account created successfully. Please log in. Or else, maybe his account is already existed. Sometimes you will get response user account. Email already existed. Email already existed. So please try with new email ID. Please try with new email ID. So this is the flow we have to maintain ultimately. This is the flow. So with this, we are ready to display form. So we are ready with form, but we have to display that. So to display that, what I said, go to create a controller and write a request mapping method and load that user sign up form. So let's go to the project and where to create the classes here. And I told you, never ever forget to disturbing this base path. Create always any packages in Spring Boot MVC or Spring MVC, Spring Boot, whatever it is, always by following the base package. You know what is a base package. Wherever your main method class is available, okay, that will become base path. So this should be mandatory. If you are forgetting that point and if you created your own package names, then your automation Spring Boot will not scan your controller classes or something, whatever it is. So if you given out of the base package, then control, I said one point, what when you started your Spring Boot application, it will scan all controller classes. When it will scan, if it comes under the base package name. If you given different package, then it will not scan. Nothing but this information will not be available with the Spring MVC. Nothing but that means if you are sending any request, then Spring will say like Spring MVC will say like not found. Then you will feel like you written the method, but you are getting error as not found. The reason is your class is not scanned. Why? You created your own package. So that's why please create the packages, but always by following that base package name. So now I given dot controller. So fine. I am writing like user controller. So it's better to give always naming convention point of view for controller classes. Write controller guys. Okay, it's naming convention. Even if you written user also, it will work. But it's better to give proper naming conventions. So that's why I'm giving name also as a user controller and package name also controller. Okay, fine. So this class is a controller class means no. At the rate controller. Okay, cool. So now it is a controller class. Now what I have to do? I have to write request mapping method for the loading sign up form. For loading sign up form, this is all about loading. So that means what I will do, public void, sorry, not void, string load sign up form. Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so return what you have to return from here, that JSP file name. And for that, first you have to write request mapping and then followed by method is what method we decided get. So get method you have to use. So request method dot get. So request method is a enum. Enum is nothing but a fixed set of fixed values, final values. So get use just like request method dot get. Request method also from the Spring framework. Comma. What is the path? We decided based on our requirement point of view. We decided like sign up. So that means inside the double quotes, give slash sign up. Okay, fine. So now the moment I sent this request from the browser, immediately it will come here and then this method will execute. But what you have to load immediately this JSP file. So what is our file name? User underscore register. So that's I'm writing here. So now what is the logic we implemented so far is displaying this sign up. So test until this it is working or not. Then we will move to the next step. So far what we implemented is this level. Until this level we implemented. Now I'll send request to this, then it will reach here, then it will load the sign up form, and I'll see as a response user sign up form. So until this I implemented now. So see here. Yeah, you can start from here also. That's what it's easy from here. So please remember, if you are not seeing this message means your application is having some problem. Some exceptions if you saw, you have to fix those. Okay, cool. Now let's send the request. So what is the URL? So if you see context path we have this time, right? So that's why this is the URL only. I'll take. So now once I'm clicking on enter, what will happen? Once I'm clicking on enter, what will happen? A GET request sent to the backend to this host on this port number to this context path application with sign up. Then automatically Spring MVC module / sign up point of view, this method it will execute. And as well as it is what get only. See what you have? You got first name, last name, sign up form. If you observe here, sign up, what request went guys? Get request. For what? Localhost get request. And you got successful response, 200 okay. Okay, what response you got? This is the response you got from the backend application. Okay, so that means, okay, you can add breaks. You can add the breaks. Okay. But anyway, you know what is the break. Okay, so see here, finally, you are getting response. Then what you will do? You will enter your name, email ID, password. Okay, let's do that. So that means now what functionality? Filling the sign up form, fill the details, and then I'll click on sign up. The moment I clicked on sign up, it has to trigger this endpoint now. Where in the backend level, in the controller level, again I have to write one more request mapping method for / account sign up because in my logic, I configure like this. The moment user clicked on the sign up button, it has to trigger this URI with post method. So that means now what I have to do in controller class, I have to create one more request mapping method with this URI path as well as with this HTTP method. And I have to write the logic like reading data from the request level. Reading data from the request point of view. Okay. So let me send the request one more time freshly. So you got form. Okay, cool. So once I clicked on, I given my information, Dilip at the rate gmail.com, and then password something like Dilip123, whatever it is. So Singh, I'm just clicking on sign up. What will happen the moment I clicked on sign up? It created, see, this is the URL it is looking for. So what happened? Yes, obviously this URL it triggered Instagram / account sign up. That is what we are expected. But we are not implemented in the controller level as of now this method. As of now, this method is not implemented. So that's why what you got, see here, 404 not found. It is saying like there is no URI path with this because we are not implemented as of. Now let's go to the controller class again. So what I'm doing, I'm writing one more method for sign up request handling. So that means @ request mapping followed by method equal to request method dot. Okay, the problem is first you have to write basic method name syntax, public string, user sign up. So I take the return. I'll replace what has to be done here. I'll come back that. Okay, so let me write first request method dot post. Yes, that is what I decided. Comma path. What is the path we decided? Equal to, so only this path. What you configured slash account slash sign up. So this one. So now, yes, now you have a method. And what I said, once you got read data from the request. So how do you know? I mean, from what is the request here it is? Here you can directly use HTTP servlet request. HTTP servlet request. So in the method directly, you are using HTTP servlet request. So whatever the HTTP servlet request, see Java jakarta.servlet.http. So whatever the request got created, that request comes here. So that request is going to come from here. So then what I will do is first I'll collect string name equal to, you forget, you remember the how to get data from the request dot get parameter of what you have to do, form name parameters. So if you go to the form, what I given name, full name, right? ID is this one, PSW this one. So full name, form name is that. So this is all again servlets only. From here again common. You are done almost. So I'm reading one by one from the request. Password, PSW, something. So pass. So what I will do is sort of dot. Zero details for sign up. Okay. Okay. So from here, what you have to do, you have to send it to service layer. So I'll tell you how to do that. But it's all common. Now you know that it's very simple. What we did in the JPA, like we created operation classes, something like right. So same thing. Now you will create a service class. But anyway, I'll explain that also. Don't worry. Just send it to service layer. How to send it? So if you are getting data until this means your mapping from view layer to controller layer is good. That's what first step. After that, we will see how to send it to service layer. And here, the moment user, okay, account is created successfully or whatever it is, you have to send a message, right? You have to send a message like user created successfully, or user email ID is already existed. Please try some message you have to send, right? So for that, what I will do is in this case, I'll for time being I'll write like this message, and I'll create one more because we are running beyond the time. file message.jsp. Okay, so in this case, what I will just implement is, okay, so how can I make it as a dynamic? I'll show you that tomorrow. For time being, I'm just making fixed response point of view, user created successfully. But it has to, if you load it anytime, always it will be loaded. But we can't do that, right? We have what we decided. We said like if user is already existed, validation point of view, then we have to give this response. Your email ID is already existed. We are not creating account. If it is not there, then only we will say like user account is created successfully. Please log in. So that is how we have to make it dynamically. But how to make it dynamically? I'll replace it. I'll take that example. For time being, we just given dummy res fixed value like this. Okay. So now what will happen in the controller perspective? So whenever this logic is executed, assume as of now I involved with not involved service layer and repository. Everything is good. Based on the validation, I have to send that message back to the front end. So how to do that? We will see this section. But for time being, I added a message.jsp and I given view name here it is. Okay, I given a view name here it is. But how to pass some extra information? I want to pass his full name, email ID back to him. Hey Dilip, your account is created. Like that, I want to make some message. That and all I'll show you. First, until this it is working or not, let's try. So that means your mapping is good or not. Okay, so what I will do, stop the server and then, yeah, let's start again. So this time post I return. I mean, why? Because here also we return post. Okay, first sign up. So the moment I clicked on sign up, it went there this time. So this controller is executed. This method is executed. So that's why you got user registration JSP and you can see this form. Now I'm filling the delete at the rate gmail.com and delete 123. So clicking on sign up. Now what happened? I got response, user created successfully. I did not insert it in DB. That's a different, I will come back to that. But just at least see the data is coming or not properly. See delete at the rate gmail.com, delete 123. Dilip at the rate gmail.com, Dilip. So that means now you got the data until here. Now what you have to do? You have to send same information back to the service layer, service to repository, repository to DB. You have to do that. So what I will do is, in this case, it will take some time, again half an hour to 40 minutes to continuation from service layer to repository and repository to DB pointer, because we have to create the entity classes, all this, right? So I don't want to make hurry because the first example, one and only example, we are taking end to end with respect to this two requirements, user registration and login. So after that, I'll stop this. After that, I will stop taking these examples with respect to monolithic application, nothing but where you are maintaining front end also in the same. So once you are done with this example, I'll move to the REST APIs. So the focus more and more on the REST APIs only. Okay. So what I will do is on Monday, I'll show you how you are integrating, because I have to involve again what service layer means, I have to explain you about service annotation. And repository means I have to explain you about repository annotation. So two new annotations are coming into the picture. So I have to explain about these two annotations. Don't worry. Let's take time. Slowly, let's go and make a proper, perfect application or perfect example with step by step what you are doing with conscious. Okay, with practical point of view, we'll do that. No need to do it very very well. Then I'll make sure dynamically how we are passing message also here instead of this dummy message always. We will do that one also. So my suggestion is please make sure until this is practiced, don't by heart. I'm telling you one more point of also don't by heart. Listen the session 2 3 times, understand the point on your own in your own language, and then try to keep that into practice. But don't by heart. So I'm clearly giving you very clearly, I'm explaining you what and all has to be done and everything diagram perspective and all. The reason I know that because you imagine now, I've shown you already Instagram application. So I already shown you Instagram application. Now tell me what you can you able to work on the Instagram application means 100% yes. So this is what we implemented, right? So this URL integration and all that we will do in real time. I mean point of view URL this domain name they will integrate with that slash sign up or whatever it is homepage point of view. Now after that what we did this is what only right see sign up yes we are also did same thing right we are also displaying same form maybe we are not displaying in the colors and the moment I given mobile number the moment I given password the moment I given everything once I'm clicking on sign up what's happening the data is going back to the backend right so this is how you give it so something you give it you given this so now see here you saw that right so more tools developer tools see the moment you clicked on the sign up that's what we did right now also we clicked on the sign up button what happened all this information is going back to the backend even I will show you here also developer see I am clicking on the sign up button what happened if you observe here sign up our own application payload see what full name email id password form data headers url post method 200 okay what we created now it is exactly similar to Instagram or not see here so what you did attempt so see here headers what post 200 okay same thing right you are also did same thing maybe they given long url that's all you can if you want you can also give same long url and payload what first name phone number username we are also doing same thing right payload first name full name email password is same thing so see how much real you are near to real time applications so that's why please don't buy heart try to utilize this dev tools so in the chrome you will find out this option um, more tools developer tools so there you can see in the network section developer tools and then you will see network under network the moment whenever you send any url so then you can see here sign up whatever it is not allowed whatever it is just why it is not allowed yeah this is also a good question so now you got response as not allowed if you observe here method not allowed what is the meaning of method not allowed guys why because the account to sign up you sent as a get method you sent as a get but actually in our backend account to sign up configured with what post so that's why what MVC module is saying is not allowed. You came up, so it is saying like URL is matching in this case. If you observe here, in this case, URL is matching. So this two information it came, right? So that's why what MVC is saying is, hey man, so this is the information it came, right? So what it is trying to say is, whatever the request you sent with respect to URL pattern that I found, but whatever the request method you sent what get, but I am accepting only post. That's why MVC module is giving response back. I will not allow you to execute this method like method not allowed. That means get method not allowed. It is reserved only for the post. So that is how you got this one. 405 not allowed. Okay, so what are these 200, 405, 201, 404? Okay. These are all details we will see in the REST API implementation point of view. I will explain response status codes. Okay, so this is how. Please be practical while you are practicing, whether it is a small example, doesn't matter, or big example, doesn't matter. Please be practical. Okay, so that's all for today. Let's connect on Monday. See, this is all base again for you to understand the REST APIs to REST services, guys. 50% is common only, whatever you are learning right now. 50% maybe some different approach point of view will understand the REST APIs. But whatever we are understanding right now is a base for REST APIs implementation and understanding also. So that's why please be practical while you are doing one example with lot more clarity. That is what you have to practice. Okay. So let's connect on Monday and same example. We will integrate service layer and repository layer. And then finally we will see the data is getting inserted into DB. So that means a full-fledged, a perfect example. I mean, a full stack application like front end to back end, and that to DB point of view, you are making a final example. So front end we are only implemented controller, service, repository, DB. So the data submitted at front end level, finally inserted at the DB level. So this flow we will see by Monday. And that is what your real-time applications.